The second error of the opposition was to demand the establishment of the Soviets while the communists participated in the Wuhan government. The best it can be described is what we say in Punjab, that you start cutting the very branch of the tree on which you are sitting. And I don't really need to draw conclusions for you what happens when you do that. At the very time that the opposition was demanding that Wuhan government be energetically supported, it also demanded the immediate establishment of Soviets of workers and peasants deputies. But Soviets are organizational centers of revolution, organs of uprising against an existing system. If not, they're bound to degenerate and become empty chat shops, empty playthings, and bound to lead to apathy, indifference, and disillusionment among the masses, who quite naturally become fed up with endless repetition of resolutions and protests. Now, anybody who is as old as me and Godfrey, or who started the movement much younger than we did, would remember the days of the 60s when you went to big meetings which were dominated by the Trotskyites and revisionists, and there were endless discussions, endless protests, endless resolutions, and nothing ever came to that. And eventually, of course, you tired everybody out till nobody attended the meetings, and that was the end of the campaign. And then you got onto the second best record that you could for amusing everybody who pretended to be progressive or was actually progressive. Now, such a call in the spring of 1927, when the left wing of the KMT government in Wuhan was revolutionary, would have been tantamount to skipping the KMT phase of the revolution, endangering the revolution and rendering inestimable service to Chiang Kai-shek. Secondly, there is the incongruity of participating in Wuhan and yet calling for its overthrow, which really means calling for your own overthrow. It's really like Monty Python. If you wouldn't mind, can we organize our own overthrow? A sheer lunacy. The Trotskyist opposition got entangled in this hopeless contradiction. Excuse me. Because it confused the bourgeois democratic revolution in China with a proletarian revolution. It confused the bourgeois democratic revolution in China with the bourgeois democratic revolution of February 1917 in Russia, which rendered it blind to the distinction between the bourgeoisie of an oppressed semi-colonial country, which can, for a limited period of time, play and did play a progressive role, and the anti-imperialist role, with the bourgeoisie of an imperialist country, such as Russia, which could not and did not play a progressive role. So, in the words of Stalin, and so we have before us two diametrically different lines on the Chinese question, the line of the Comintern and the line of Trotsky and Zinoviev. Line of the Comintern. Feudal survivals and the bureaucratic military superstructures which rest on them and which receive every support from the imperialists of all countries are the basic fact of Chinese life today. China at the present time is passing through an agrarian revolution directed both against the feudal survivals and against imperialism. The agrarian revolution constitutes the basis and content of the bourgeois democratic revolution in China. The Comintern in Wuhan and the Wuhan government are the center of the bourgeois democratic revolutionary movement. Nanking and the Nanking government are the center of the national counter-revolution. The policy of supporting Wuhan is at the same time a policy of developing the bourgeois democratic revolution, with all the consequences resulting from that. Hence the participation of the communists in the Wuhan Comintern and in the Wuhan revolutionary government. A participation which does not exclude, but rather presupposes strenuous criticism by the communists of the half-heartedness and vacillation of their allies in the KMT. The communists must utilize this participation to facilitate the proletariat's role of the hegemon in the Chinese bourgeois democratic revolution and to hasten the moment of transition to proletarian revolution. When the moment of the complete victory of bourgeois democratic revolution approaches, and when in the course of bourgeois revolution the paths of transition to proletarian revolution become clear, the time will have arrived when it's necessary to set up Soviets of workers, peasants, and soldiers' deputies as elements of dual power, as organs of struggle for a new power, as organs of a new power, Soviet power. When that time comes, the communists must replace the bloc with the KMT by a bloc outside the KMT, and the Communist Party must become the sole leader of the new Chinese revolution. To propose now, as Trotsky and Zinoviev do, the immediate establishment of Soviets, of workers and peasants' deputies, and the immediate establishment of dual power now, when the bourgeois democratic revolution is still in its initial phase of development, and when the KMT represents the form and organization of the national democratic revolution best adapted to them and most closely corresponding to the specific features of China, would be to disorganize the revolutionary movement, weaken Wuhan, facilitate its downfall, and render assistance to Chiang So-lin and Chiang Kai-shek. Now the line of Trotsky and Zinoviev. Feudal survivals in China are a figment of Bukharin's imagination. They either do not exist at all in China or are so insignificant that they cannot have any serious importance. There does appear to be an agrarian revolution in China at this moment, but where it comes from, the devil alone knows. Laughter, obviously. But since there is this agrarian revolution, it must, of course, be supported somehow. The chief thing just now is not the agrarian revolution, but a revolution for customs independence in China. An anti-customs revolution, so to speak. The Wuhan KMT and the Wuhan government are either a fiction, Trotsky, or Kemalism, Zinoviev. On the other hand, the dual power must be established for overthrowing the Wuhan government through the immediate formation of Soviets. On the other hand, the Wuhan government must be strengthened. It must be given energetic and all-round assistance also, it appears, through the immediate formation of Soviets. By rights, the communists ought to withdraw immediately from this fiction, i.e. the Wuhan government and the Wuhan KMT. Why they should remain in Wuhan if Wuhan is a fiction? That, it seems, God alone knows. And whoever does not agree with this is a betrayer and a traitor. Such is the so-called line of Trotsky and Zinoviev. Anything more grotesque and confused than this so-called line, it would be hard to imagine. This is good. One gets the impression that one is dealing not with Marxists, but with some sort of bureaucrats who are completely divorced from real life, or still more, with revolutionary tourists who've been busy touring about Sukhum. Sukhum is a lovely resort. It's somewhere in near Georgia. It's not actually in Georgia, but it's Ossetia or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, they've been busy touring about Sukhum and such like places. Overlooked the 7th enlarged plenum of the Executive Committee of the Comintern, which defined the basic attitude towards the Chinese Revolution, and then, having learnt from the newspapers that some sort of a revolution, whether agrarian or anti-customs, they were not quite so clear, was really taking place in China, they decided that it was necessary to compile a whole heap of theses. One set in April, another in the early part of May, and a third in the latter part of May. And having done so, they bombarded the Executive Committee of the Comintern with them, apparently believing that a plethora of confused and contradictory theses is the best means of saving the Chinese Revolution. Such, comrades, are the lines on the question of the Chinese Revolution. You will have to choose between them.